There are more pressing worries than AI turning into robots, killing humans, or starting some extinction level event. Now, I don't deny that as a possibility, but right now, there are more pressing worries, and that is the worry of humans using AI or being manipulated by technology to cause harm. That's why I'm optimistic about AI safety to the extent I'm optimistic about the psychological and spiritual development of humans. Technology isn't typically force fed to people. Now, it might seem that way. Like there are people and companies who create it, and we simply just have to get what they give us. But here's an observation made by Mark Andreessen, who, say what you will about him, has spent a lifetime observing markets and trying to find products that fit in them. And he said, in a great market, a market with a lot of real potential customers, the market pulls products out of the startup. Now, for the most part, we do have a say in the technology we use. If a need exists, the technology persists to fill that need. And if the need is non-existent, the technology won't work. I mean, we could take a simple example. If every single person decided to stop using Instagram, let's say, Instagram at some point will die off. Now, in that example, of course, Facebook is a massive company with an insane chest of cash just sitting for them to constantly deploy so that they wouldn't go out of business. And there are some problems there, and there are some problems, let's say, with monopolies forming. But for the most part, if the need is non-existent, the technology won't work, or we'll have to pivot so that people will use it. We do have a lot more say in the technologies and the products that are created than we might think. And one of the problems is that some of these technologies do play on primal instincts, needs that we struggle to control. And a perfect example of this is social media algorithms that are literally optimized for addiction. The word they use is engagement, but that's just a euphemism for addiction. The short form infinite scroll takes the addiction optimization and puts it on a freaking IV drip. It's misguided and harmful. But the question is, do we blame the technology? Do we blame its creators? The problem is, like, when we point fingers at the creator or its creation, we project the responsibility onto them, thereby transferring our autonomy away. Now, sometimes maybe that's done so people could continue scrolling without feeling bad. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't place any responsibility on the people that are creating these algorithms. But I think we need to take control of our ability to manage our use of given technologies, despite how pervasive these effects might be, or how hard it might be to pull ourselves away from the addicting nature of these technologies. Now, I'm not saying that we should all delete social media. There are positive aspects that come with social media. I just think we need a better relationship with it. The more pervasive the technology, the more precise and conscious the boundaries need to be. The attitude needs to be applied across the technological spectrum, and most importantly, with AI. The direction I think it ultimately goes is wherever we all want it to go, whether that's unconsciously motivated or not. So the cynical start to this video leads to a sobering and optimistic conclusion. To the extent that we pull products out of the market is to the extent to which we can fix a quote unquote evil technology. So I want to start with the general worst case scenarios we're navigating between, the ones we're pulling from the market, and finish with how the individual can practically navigate their way through these paths, which is an answer that most people probably won't want to hear. In David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest, he imagined a film so compelling and addicting that viewers could not stop watching it and ultimately died. And in George Orwell's 1984, he imagined a Big Brother system which is always watching, ensuring citizens' compliances, words and actions with the party's commands. Where Wallace's imagination was one of uncontrollable addiction to the whims of hedonism, Orwell's was one of engineered tyranny from an inability to control the grip of power. And both are on the table. The ability to navigate through the straight and narrows and play only to the extent we can mature our ability to control both those impulses, the impulse of pleasure and the impulse of power. Now, the infinite scroll short form video plus the addiction optimized feed is something the human brain seems to have trouble getting its hands around. Now, imagine a future where that algorithm, the TikToks, the Instagram Reels, are not only pulling from the creators of humans, but can generate a video from scratch based on what it thinks you want in that moment. Or imagine an AI companion who sends you a message based on what it knows will satiate your impulse at that given moment, derived from data on you at that given moment. And it's not like these things aren't being created. I mean, there are 18 plus pornographic anime AI companions. Facebook plans on, or has in the past planned on building AI companions that can message people on Facebook. Now, all of these things have one thing in common, and that's our ability to control the pleasure principle. There's this hedonism that pulls humans. It's this temptation that I'm not saying is absolutely awful. If you want to go goblin mode and you want to spend a weekend where you just hunker down with a bag of chips and game for 48 hours, sometimes there's a place for that. But the place for that is not at all the time, and you being in its grips. People need to have a conscious grasp over these impulses and note it when it comes and see that maybe it needs to be fulfilled. And maybe that means, gaming for an hour at night or doing whatever, healthy hedonistic impulse or a healthy hedonistic routine or implement helps you kind of satiate that need. But to be in the grasp of its impulse means that it controls you and not you it. So when has these when AI is implemented into these hedonistic driven algorithms, then humans don't have control over that impulse, then AI in that given context will control you even unconsciously. And it's funny to say that because the algorithms in the social algorithms now are a form of artificial intelligence before these large language models, and they've been pulling on people's impulse centers for a long time now. And it's only recently that we're waking up and seeing that they have these effects, but now it's just up to us to learn to control those impulses. And another worry, like the hedonistic impulse, and this one is also ancient, an impulse that has been alive before humans, is that people seem to get intoxicated by power and its abuse and then become corrupted by it. Now, how does this apply to AI? Though not as evident as the hedonistic impulse in consumer technology, AI could be implemented into surveillance systems that, and especially as energy output increases, the energy expended to have a tyrannical surveillance system reaches almost near zero because the artificial intelligence could track the people and the resources necessary to have total control over a given state or a given place. One crazy dictator with an innumerable number of AI agents becomes a sprawl of tyranny at an unseen degree, essentially. And how far away from how far away are we from this future? I mean, it's not exactly clear, but at this point, 1984's Big Brother is mostly there. There's this technology called Neurospot, and there was a viral video a couple years back of a CCTV AI tracking tool that tracked employees' productivity in a coffee shop to see how many cups they were making per hour, essentially. And humans have struggled with the relationship to the power drive like they have the pleasure drive for a long time now. And it seems that, I mean, as the cliche goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I mean, I personally don't think that power inherently corrupts. I think it amplifies and reveals. And it seems that people who have an evil inclination go to places where power can be, or where power sits infinitely latent or near infinitely latent. And that seems to be in the world of AI, that seems to be a increasingly a fact that is arising. And while, like, I do think that hierarchies can be maintained in a cohesive, honest, and benevolent way, but for for that to happen and for us to use AI to help improve hierarchies and improve our autonomy, I think that I think that humans need to navigate the straight and narrow through pleasure and power, where we learn that collectively control these impulses so that being we're not being grasped by the social algorithms and the AI wrapped around those, or the power minefield of these technologies that people could use to deploy power over another. And honestly, the answer is so simple. I seriously think that the way through this is the individuation process. Now, this is the moment where people's eyes gloss over, but truly, I do think that one of the best ways, and maybe the only way to for individuals to take control of the power of pleasure impulse, is going to be through psychological growth. And for me, has worked because as somebody increasingly goes through this individuation process of trying to consistently improve themselves, eventually you're faced with this need to find how to consciously control these impulses in your life so that they don't run your life, rather you run them. And it might seem like every individual doing this is a overly simple solution, but here's a really powerful quote from Carl Jung, kind of on this topic. And this is when he's talking about World War I here. He says, "This war has pitilessly revealed to civilized man that he is still a barbarian. But the psychology of the individual corresponds to the psychology of the nation. What the nation does is done also by each individual. And so long as the individual does it, the nation also does it. Only the change in the attitude of the individual is the beginning of the change in the psychology of the nation." And yes, I know individuation won't solely solve the AI issue. There are going to be updates that are necessary, technical updates that are necessary to these tools. But this is something that everyone can do and has the capability to do. There are only a small minority who can rewire economic incentives or update technical safety constraints in AI. The nice thing about this solution is that even if you commit to this process and it has nothing to do with the help of AI safety, at least it's going to help you and likely everybody around you through your influence. And trust me, I wish the answer were sexier. Like, I really do wish that there was just a switch that would help us all. Like, individuation is not easy work. It's individuation by its nature is lonely, right? The idea of individuation is, it has a method, but for the most part, because of the individual nature of the individual, a kind of there's a unique nature for everybody's process. So while people while people could all be on an individuation journey, their trajectory will look completely different from another person on an individuation journey as well. So it's not easier. It would be nice if there was it would be nice if there was a simple answer. But I do think that at a minimum, this is something that everybody could start doing, and it at least gives us some autonomy over the AI question, and might even give the it might even give us the ability to alter the technology being offered. And we kind of saw glimpses of this around the COVID era when there were social medias like the name has escaped me. I think it was like Be Real or something. Yeah, I think it was called Be Real. And it's that social media did die out, but it shows that like there are there are possibilities that we can pull different products out of the market that are better oriented for us. And that's not to say that an occasional scroll here and there isn't the worst thing in the world, but I think that there needs to be a better relationship with the hedonistic pleasure impulse and the corrupting nature of power that humans navigate towards. And I think that by conquering both of those, we'll have a better chance of conquering our potential of misuse with AI. And if you enjoyed that, then like the video, subscribe here, and I'll see you again. Thanks for watching.